What if I told you that one language, just one language, stood between you and the life you have always wanted? Not money, not connections, not luck, just language. My name is Daniel. I am from the Philippines. And this is the story of how learning English did not just change my career, it saved my family. I want you to stay with me until the end of this video, because the part that changed everything for me is not at the beginning of my story, it is in the middle. And if you are somewhere in the middle of your own English journey right now, struggling, doubting, wondering if it is worth it, what I am about to share with you might be exactly what you need to hear today. I grew up in a small municipality in the province of Batangas in the Philippines. If you have never heard of it, imagine a place where everyone knows everyone, where the streets smell like rice cooking and engine oil, where children play outside until the sky turns dark, and where your neighbors are so close that you can hear them laughing through the walls of your house. That was my childhood. Simple, warm, and completely surrounded by people I loved. My father was a construction worker. My mother sold vegetables at the local market every morning, starting before sunrise. We were 5 children, and I was the oldest. From a very young age, I understood what that meant. It meant I was expected to set an example. It meant that whatever I achieved or failed to achieve would echo through the lives of my 4 younger siblings. That is a heavy thing to carry when you are a child, but I never resented it. It made me serious about my future in a way that I think saved me later. I wanted to be an engineer. I had wanted it since I was 8 years old, and I watched a crew of workers build a bridge over the river at the edge of our town. I stood on the bank every day after school and watched them pour concrete, set steel bars, and slowly shape something solid and permanent out of nothing but raw materials and calculation. The engineer on the project wore a yellow hard hat and carried rolled blueprints under his arm and spoke to the workers with calm authority. I thought he was the most impressive person I had ever seen. I went home and told my mother I was going to build bridges one day. She laughed and said, "Then you had better study hard." So I did. I was a good student. Mathematics came naturally to me. Physics made sense to me in a way that other subjects did not. By the time I finished secondary school, I had grades strong enough to apply to engineering programs at universities in the city. I was accepted. My parents were proud in a way they did not quite know how to express, which in our family meant my father patted my shoulder once and said good, and my mother cooked my favorite meal and told the entire neighborhood. But university brought a problem I had not anticipated. The engineering program was taught primarily in English. All the textbooks were in English. Assignments were submitted in English. Presentations were given in English. And while I had studied English in school for years, the English I had learned was careful, slow, and academic. The English of university. Fast lectures, technical terminology, professors who assumed you could keep up, was a completely different language. I fell behind quickly, not in the mathematics, not in the theory, but in the language that carried all of it. I failed my first 2 assignments not because I did not understand the concepts, but because I could not express what I understood clearly enough in writing. My professor, a quiet man named Dr. Reyes, called me into his office after the second failed paper. He looked at my work and said, "Daniel, I can see you understand the material, but your written English is making it impossible for me to evaluate you properly. You need to fix this or the language will cost you the degree." I walked out of his office, feeling something I can only describe as a cold panic. I had come this far. I was not going to let a language stop me. But fixing my English was not simple. I did not have money for private tutoring. The university had a writing center, but the sessions were short and the waiting list was long. I had to find another way. So I built my own system, and I want to tell you exactly what that system was, because it is the thing that made the difference. Stay with me here. This is the part that actually matters. The first thing I did was find one English speaker and talk to that person every single day. His name was Marcus, a Canadian exchange student in my engineering cohort who had the kind of easy, natural English that I desperately wanted. I asked him directly, "Marcus, I need to improve my English fast. Will you help me?" He said yes without hesitating. Every day at lunch we sat together, and I spoke only in English. When I made a mistake, he corrected me immediately, not harshly, just matter-of-factly, the way you would if a friend mispronounced a word, and you wanted them to know before they said it in front of someone else. Marcus was the best language teacher I never paid for. The second thing I did was read out loud for 30 minutes every evening. Not silently, out loud. I took my engineering textbooks and I read them aloud, slowly, deliberately, making my mouth form the technical words until they stopped feeling foreign. Then I started reading other things out loud, articles, news stories, anything I could find in English. My roommate thought I had lost my mind, but within 6 weeks the words were coming more easily and the sentences were flowing more naturally. I was no longer reading English. I was speaking it. The third thing I did was write 1 page in English every single night before I slept. Not an assignment, not something for a grade, just 1 page about my day, my thoughts, whatever was on my mind. At first, those pages were full of errors, simple grammar mistakes, wrong prepositions, sentences that were grammatically correct but sounded strange to a native ear. I kept every page. After 4 months, I went back and read the earliest ones, and I could not believe how much had changed. The improvement was right there on paper, undeniable, measurable. If you ever doubt your progress, keep your old writing. It will show you exactly how far you have come. By the end of my first year at university, my written English had improved enough to pass every assignment. By the end of my second year, I was writing reports that my professor used as examples for other students. In my third year, I gave a technical presentation in front of an audience of 200 people, in English, without notes, and received a standing ovation. The same person who had once failed 2 assignments because of language was now being asked by other students how he had gotten so good at presenting. I always told them the same thing. I talked every day. I wrote every night. And I found someone who was willing to tell me the truth when I was wrong. I graduated with honors. My family came to the ceremony. My father wore his best shirt. My mother cried from the moment I walked across the stage until we were back in the parking lot. My youngest sister, who was 12 at the time, kept pulling my graduation gown and asking if she could try on my cap. I let her wear it the entire drive home. After graduation, I was hired by a construction company in Manila. The salary was good by local standards, and the work was interesting. But after 2 years, I began to notice something. The engineers in my company who were advancing fastest were the ones who could communicate confidently in English. with international clients and foreign partner companies. The ones who could present proposals, negotiate contracts, write detailed technical reports, and hold their own in meetings with people from other countries. English was not just a skill at the edges of the job. It was the skill that separated the engineers who built local projects from the engineers who built careers with global reach. I decided I wanted that reach, so I did something that felt enormous at the time, but now feels like the most logical decision I ever made. I applied for a position at an international engineering firm based in Australia. The role required advanced English communication skills, experience with large infrastructure projects, and the ability to work with multicultural teams across different time zones. I applied knowing my technical experience was strong. I applied trusting that my English, after years of deliberate daily practice, was strong enough. The interview was conducted entirely in English, via video call, with 3 interviewers from 3 different countries. Before the call, I prepared for 2 weeks. I researched the company thoroughly. I practiced answering common interview questions out loud, recorded myself, listened back, and adjusted. I read recent news articles about infrastructure projects in Australia, so I could speak knowledgeably about the industry context. I prepared questions to ask them, thoughtful questions that showed I had done my homework. When the call happened, I was nervous, but I was ready. The conversation flowed. When I did not know a word, I described what I meant without panicking, and the interviewers filled in the term for me and moved on. At the end, one of them said, "Daniel, your communication is impressive. We will be in touch." They offered me the position 10 days later. I remember reading the offer letter and needing to read the salary figure 3 times. It was more money than my father had earned in 5 years of construction work. I sat with that number for a long time before I called home. My first year in Australia was another adjustment period, a gentler one than I expected, but an adjustment nonetheless. Australian English has its own rhythms, its own slang, its own humor. There were still moments of confusion, still conversations where I had to ask someone to repeat themselves, still cultural references I did not understand. But the difference between this adjustment and my earlier struggles was enormous. Before, I had been afraid of not understanding. Now I was simply curious about it. Not understanding something was just a question waiting to be asked. That shift, from fear to curiosity, was the real sign that I had become fluent. Not perfect, fluent. There is a difference. Fluent does not mean you never make mistakes. It means the mistakes no longer stop you. It means the conversation keeps moving. It means the language has become a tool you pick up and use, rather than a wall you stand in front of. Today, I lead a team of 11 engineers on infrastructure projects across Southeast Asia and the Pacific. I present to government stakeholders. I write technical proposals that determine whether projects worth millions of dollars move forward or not. I mentor young engineers, some of whom remind me of myself 10 years ago. Technically sharp, quietly struggling with English, wondering if the language will be the thing that holds them back. I tell all of them the same thing I am telling you now. It will not hold you back if you refuse to let it. The language is learnable. It responds to effort. It rewards consistency. And it opens doors that nothing else can open in quite the same way. You do not need to move to another country. You do not need expensive classes or perfect pronunciation or a native speaker accent. You need one conversation partner, 30 minutes of reading out loud, one page of writing before you sleep, and the decision, made again every single day, that you are going to get better at this. Because you will. Not immediately, not without frustration, but you will. I am the oldest of 5 children from a small town in the Philippines. My father built things with his hands. My mother sold vegetables before the sun came up. And I build bridges, real ones, across rivers and valleys and coastlines, because I refuse to let a language be the reason my dream stayed small. Your dream does not have to stay small either. It just needs you to show up for it. In English, every single day, until the day the language shows up for you. If Daniel's story reminded you that your goals are still possible, come and be part of our growing family at Wisdom Loom English. Every week we share powerful stories and real lessons to help you improve your English and expand your life. Subscribe right now, and let's build something great together.